Hello, good afternoon. My name is Kadija De Paula. I'm the Interim Strategic Programs Manager at the Toronto Arts Council, and today I'll be talking to you about the Open Door program. First, I'll make a few introductions and acknowledgments. Then I'll spend about 20 minutes presenting the program, and we'll close the session with a Q&A period. To visually describe my screen, I am a white woman with long gray hair. I'm wearing large black headphones, glasses. I'm wearing a black shirt with large colorful flower pattern. And behind me, there is a white wall. The slide that is open now shows a graphic invitation to today's session with text written in white letters against a teal bluish green background. The Toronto Arts Council logo on the left, and it reads September 19, 2022, 4:30 to 6 p.m. Information session, open door. A grant open to arts collectives and organizations, application deadline September 29, 2022. And the session includes ASL interpretation that you can see on your screen. So ASL interpretation is available to the right of the screen for the duration of the session. To turn on closed captions, select CC icon to the bottom right of your screen. You can enlarge any side of the screen by moving the split screen bar in the middle of the screen in the direction of the side of the screen you would like to minimize. The chat box is available if you have a comment, and Q&A box is available if you have a question. During discussion, you can raise your hand and your mic will be turned on to speak, or you may also request to have your video turned on. The presentation portion of the session will be recorded and shared, but we'll stop the recording during the Q&A session. So please let us know on the chat if you have any other accessibility needs, and we'll do our best to accommodate it. As I said, this session is being recorded for the benefit of those who could not join us today. It will be available on YouTube. And as I mentioned before, I'll be giving an overview of the program for discussion. When we'll start the discussion portion, you will not be visible on the recording, only spotlight speakers will be visible. And again, the chat is available if you have questions. Well, the Toronto Arts Council acknowledges the diversity of the First Peoples of this area and recognizes the territories of the Wendat, the Nishnabek Nation, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. I'm sorry for the pronunciation, I'm still learning it. And the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation today. Toronto is still the home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island and around the world, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work, to live, and to meet on this territory. I also would like to personally acknowledge that I, like most, am a guest to this land, regardless of when we arrived, and I arrived back to Toronto a month ago, so bear with me as I'm getting used to the city again. It's important to acknowledge that those who came before us and remind ourselves how urgently current this history is. Colonization is a process that continues to inflict violence on Indigenous lands, cultures, and bodies everywhere today. So let's be mindful of that and grateful for being here. Well, the Toronto Arts Council has been since 1974 mandated by the City of Toronto to support the city's art community and offer grants that are that fund the city to a broad cross-section of Toronto arts organizations and professional artists. Grants programs are governed by two key operating principles that are arm's length funding and peer review. And we're going to talk about that later on. But as most of you are part of organizations, you're probably familiar with that. TAC program overview. The TAC has two funding envelopes: the artistic discipline fundings, which are discipline-specific project grants and operating grants. And that includes Black arts, community arts, dance, Indigenous art, literary arts, music, theater, visual media arts. And then there are the strategic funding, such as operating open door programs. And the strategic fundings, they're not operating, they're projects. And they include animating Toronto parks, animating historic sites, artists in the library, TAC Creative Solutions Digital Incubator, Newcomers and Refugee Arts Engagement, Newcomer and Refugee Artist Mentorship. I'm saying that because applicants are eligible to receive only one grant from each funding category per year. For example, you may not apply to a strategic program if you have another strategic grant application pending or final report pending. And this is a big change from last year's open door guidelines, where we were focusing on pandemic recovery, and we had opened a few exceptions. Well, the Toronto Arts Council recognized that the pandemic has exacerbated existing inequities within the art sector, and the Open Door program is guided by TAC Equity Priority Policy and Equity Framework. And priority consideration will also go to organizations and collectives who support artists and workers in communities heavily impacted by the COVID pandemic. So that's something that we're still taking into consideration, although no exceptions will be made into the strategic pool and the discipline fund. The TAC is committed to equity and inclusion and welcomes applications from diverse cultural and geographic communities within the City of Toronto. TAC welcomes applications from specific equity groups, and measures and targeted programs are in place to ensure full access and participation by Black artists, Indigenous artists, artists of color, artists who are deaf, have disabilities or are living with mental illnesses, are living artists who self-identify as 2Ls, LGBTQIAP, newcomer and refugee artists, young and emerging artists, and artists working outside the downtown core. So on that note, I would like to, before I start talking about the Open Doors program specifically, I would like to introduce my colleague Tamaj Garad, who helped me organize the session today. Tamaj is TAC's Outreach and Access Program Manager. She's responsible for both the Black Arts projects and the Black Arts annual operating programs. Hello, Tamaj.
Hello, thank you so much, Kadija. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Open Doors information session. My name is Tamaj Grad. I'm the Outreach and Access Program Manager, as mentioned. So I support outreach and access across our various programs, but I also manage one of our newest programs, the Black Arts Program. Black Arts Program has two main categories, the projects and the annual operating. This is open to Black artists, artist collectives, as well as Black-led organizations with varying eligibility requirements, which I'll share in the smallest of nutshells, but you can always contact me for more information. So the projects program is a program intended to create artists in one-time projects that they may create. So it includes two streams, the creation and development stream, which is open to individual artists as well as artist collectives, but not nonprofit arts organizations. And then the presentation stream, which is a bit broader in terms of eligibility and who can apply. It does include individuals, collectives, as well as Black-led, Black-focused, and Black-serving arts organizations. Creation and development is really about creating work. So whether it's new work or a work in progress or, partial completion, a full completion, this really supports any phase of project completion, including research and development. There are a lot of additional supports that are available with the projects program, including a mentorship component if you wanted to apply to work with a mentor or a team of mentors, whereas presentation is really focused on public showcase and exhibition, as well as dissemination of work. Mentorship option is also available there. Annual operating, this is core funding. So similar to some of our other operating programs, we fund nonprofit arts organizations that are and collectives, but in this program, they are all Black-led, Black-focused, and Black-serving. This is core funding, it's recurring funding, and really the goal of this program as a whole is to support the amplification and sustainability of Black artists and their contributions throughout the city, and hopefully to support Black arts communities within the greater arts sector and the arts landscape. So that being said, I do have there's an opportunity for you to contact me and get in touch with me to chat about your project. If you're applying to the Black Arts Projects Program, we accept applications on an ongoing basis. So that means that throughout the year, you can apply at many different points throughout the year, and we have various assessment points throughout the year. We're in an interesting, time of year for this program because our last application call to be assessed for this year is October 6th. It's not a deadline. You can still apply after October 6th, but the program will be briefly closed for about a month after this time period. This just means if you have a project that you'd like to get started before spring of next year, I would encourage you to apply before October 6th so that your project is assessed this year. And I'm hosting office hours, which means that you can drop in and chat with me. I'm the program manager about your project if you're applying for this program. You have the dates there. I will drop the link. And yeah, just get in touch with me at any time. Our role at TAC as program managers is really to support you to not only understand the programs, but to approach the application questions in the best possible way to understand how to navigate the application system and really to support you in presenting the best possible application that you can. So we're really here to support, and we're very approachable and willing to support you. So please do reach out. And thank you so much, Kadija, for making space for this program during your information session. I'm going to hand it back to you.
My pleasure. Thank you, Tamaj, and thank you for helping me organize this. So now we are finally going to start talking about the Open Door program. And the Open Door program is a granting program that's been around for about 8 years. And the goal of this program is to support projects that demonstrate innovation, experimentation, risk-taking, partnerships, the sharing of knowledge and leadership. And so the Open Door provides catalyst funding for ideas with the potential to create transformative change in the arts sector. And what does that mean? It's really an opportunity to think outside the box and to imagine things that have not been proposed. I've been getting a lot of calls and I've been trying to answer them to my best knowledge, but it's a lot of it needs to come from you applicants, and what are you imagine that hasn't been done yet, that is experimental, that might be complicated for your organization, your collective to try out within an operating grant, which doesn't have much space for, like a project grant. So I really encourage you to propose things that are really innovative and not done before. Having said that, what does the program support? So the program supports ambitious, timely projects with the potential of to transform an artistic discipline, as I said before, inspire a community of artists, elevate the art sector as a whole, large-scale collaboration initiatives that create meaningful engagement for artists and audiences with the potential to significantly benefit TAC equity priority groups are very encouraged. Projects designed to address organizational transitions. So if you're going through an internal crisis and you need to try something new, or you just want to try something new in your organization, the pandemic has put a lot of restraints to organizations, has placed a lot of challenges. So if you want to overcome them and you have any ideas of how to do that, this is a program that you can apply to. Projects that explore new opportunities for Toronto artworks, projects which could also be projects taking place outside of Toronto. And for that, you must explain the impact that going abroad with this project or bringing people from outside, how does that impact Toronto directly? Artists or the art sector or audiences. Projects with the capacity to solve sector-wide challenges in new innovative ways. As I said before, like there are a number of challenges that the art sector are facing in the city because of the pandemics, development, increased costs, connections, networks. So if there's anything in your project that addresses these challenges, this is a good program to apply. There is no set amount or maximum request for this program. This program may cover up to 100% of project costs, and grants awarded may be less than the full amount requested. We'll do our best to not underfund anybody, but it is a competitive grant assessment. So we try to balance things out. However, it's important to note that the program budget this year is smaller than last year because last year we had some extra funding to plan for the pandemic recovery. And of course, there's a limit. So we can talk about that in the Q&A if you have questions. Accessibility costs can be included into this grant as well. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. So some examples of open door projects that have been funded through Open Door. I would like to speak briefly about two of them. One of them was the Canadian Stage 2017 Spotlight Forum. It was a 2-day business for the arts, for arts professionals and market development forum that coincided with the Can Stage Biennial Spotlight Festival that year featured Australia. And the forum was led by industry leaders and involved expert panelists to share tools and best practices for arts practitioners, performing arts practitioners. And the Spotlight Forum professional development and network activities included community engagement initiatives and knowledge sharing opportunities that helped Canadian Stage and Toronto artists build audience, create new markets, and spark collaborations, but also connect to international artists. So this is one example of a project that has been funded a while back. A more recent project that was funded through the Open Door program was the Lua Cheyenne Dance Company, Yenza Festival. And this was a brand new festival that was launched last August, focused on celebrating the work of women in dance from African to Afro-diasporic cultures, the festival had two components. One was to nurture and empower Black female dance experience and invite the public to witness performances and participate in workshops. So this took place last year. They're just two examples of many different projects we have funded through this program. But just to give you an idea. And who can apply to this program? Applicants located in Toronto. If your postal code starts with an M, that's an indication that you're eligible. If it starts with any other letter, you were probably not eligible. Collectives form, well, the majority of collectives members need to be based in Toronto. So collectives formed by 2 people, they need to be in Toronto. By 3 people, at least 2 need to be based in Toronto, and so on. Incorporated nonprofit arts organizations are eligible, or arts collectives operating on a nonprofit basis are also eligible. You will need a bank account on the name of your collective if you're awarded. Applicants need a viable administrative and financial plan for the proposed activity, which also means that if you ask for more than $30,000, you have to provide financial statements or audited statements. They can be done in-house, but they need to be detailed financial statements. TC, well, what else? What this program does not fund? Well, individuals are not funded through this program, so you can apply if you are alone. Activities included in TAC operating grants cannot be funded through this program, although if there is an aspect of an operating activity that you have and that you want to pursue it in a different direction and try out a pilot that comes from this branch, we can talk about that. That could be a possibility. And activities that are included in TAC project grants are not included. So if that's something, your project could be funded by the dance grants, project grants, for example, or music grants, or creative community grants, then it cannot be funded by the Open Door grant, because we're trying to tackle very specific strategic questions. Capital projects or expenses, renovations or repairs cannot be covered by this grant. Research, feasibility studies, or training programs cannot be funded. Projects previously funded through Open Door cannot be funded either. And print or online publishing cannot be funded. This program does not support schools, tuition-funded training programs, curriculum-based programs, or research programs. Organizations receiving operating funding directly from the City of Toronto Economic Development and Culture Division, or from another City of Toronto division. Okay. How to apply? So you need to, applicants are required to register and submit the application to TAC Grants Online. Here's the link. It's called Smart Simple. And I'll show you a screenshot of that. Applications must be submitted no later than 11:59 p.m. on September 29th. And you'll receive a confirmation email once you submit your application. Check your spam and junk mail folder if you do not receive a notification that your application has been submitted. So when you log into this TAC portal, you'll see this when you click on the link, and then you have to do a login, create a profile for an individual or an organization. In this case, you'll be registering on the right button for the Open Door grant. and then you log in. And the next screen you see will be this one, telling what programs are open to organizations and collectives. And you'll see strategic funding, Open Door 2022, and you can click to apply now. If you are an applicant, if you're deaf, mad, disabled, and need support to complete the application, we can grant you up to $500 to cover the cost of assistant for support service providers who can help you prepare and send your application. The TAC also provides accessibility grants of up to $5,000 towards accessibility costs for artists incurred during the project, and that's something that you have to ask in your application, and it's not related to the application support. The assessment process for this program, well, grants are, as all our grants here at the TC, they are awarded on a competitive basis by a panel of practicing artists and representatives from partner organizations. Panel members are selected on a basis of their familiarity with a broad spectrum of artistic styles, practices, and their direct experiences with arts programming. Grant review panels are composed to ensure fair representation of gender and cultural diversity. The grant review panel assesses projects according to the following criteria: the extent to which the proposed project relates to the purpose of the Open Door program, as I described before, the extent to which the project invests in the community partnerships, collaborative leadership, and the sharing of knowledge, the financial and administrative viability of the proposed project. So this, most of you are already familiar, but it's just to remember, I'm not going to be making the decisions. I'll be selecting a group of people who have been pre-approved by our board and who will make the decisions as a group and decide which applicants will receive this grant based on our budget. So it's very important to be clear and to explain to people that you don't know. For that, just sharing basic granting tips, read the guidelines carefully, ask yourself if you're eligible, is your project a strong fit for the program's deadlines and objectives. Contact your program manager, in this case myself, make sure you're eligible because each program is different. Prepare some questions, get feedback, and please feel free to call me in the next 10 days before the deadline. I'm here to answer your questions, to think together. As I mentioned, I just came back to Toronto after 10 years abroad. I just started in this position a few weeks ago, and I'm learning with you. So it's a really good moment for us to think together about this program, and I'm here to support you and the TC as well. So please give me a call. Give yourself time. Well, at this point, we only have 10 days, but I hope I know that some of you have already started putting your applications together. Make sure you have consent to submit project contributors, names, CVs, and support material. Draft, edit, and save your writing in a separate document, not on the Smart Simple platform. Cut and paste your writing into the field when you're completely finished editing your text. Try not to edit that on the platform. Use clear and direct language. Begin with a succinct summary of your project. Get feedback from friends. Ask what's missing. And follow instructions. Use the word limit. And remember, you'll be read by a group between 4 to 6 people who you may or may not know, who may or may not be familiar with your organization, with your project. The Open Door program is a multidisciplinary program, so the assessment panel will be formed by people from various backgrounds in terms of media, cultures, diversity. So try to speak to an audience, a large audience, and be clear about what you need, why you need it, and why is this grant important to your collective or organization at this point. Again, for more information about the program, please contact me. If you have questions that are more related to filling up your application, you can contact Joy Stowe, who is the grant assistant who will be working with me in this program. And for technical questions about the TAC Grants Online platform, you can send an email to support@torontoartscouncil.org. I'm now going to open the floor for questions, and I guess, yeah, you can please put them on the questions on the Q&A and let me know how I can help you. And I think that this is the most important part of this information session, this conversation that we can have about the program with potential applicants present here so that you can listen to each other's questions and we can talk about it together, because it's a better way for learning about the program through each other's questions. So anyone?
Kadija, there are some questions, I think, in the Q&A.
Okay, maybe I'll stop sharing the screen then. Sorry, just a moment. Stop sharing the screen so that I can see the Q&A better. So David is asking does that mean we can apply for a project for 2-year base? For example, Toronto Artists Marketing Forum 2023 and 2024 at once. I apply for the grant this year. Yes, you have 2 years to do your activities, so you could cover this recurrent activity. That shouldn't be a problem. Okay, can everybody see the Q&A? Is it open? I hope so. Okay, great. Well, I think you can make it open or close, but it would be nice to make it open if you don't mind. I'm going to be reading the questions without saying names then. I see there are some changes to the application form questions since last year. Are there any shifts that applicants should consider or recommendations you have on how to approach the application this year based on last year's process that you can share? Well, I think some of the new questions, I'm gonna even take a look here at my notes. But some of the questions, the new questions, relate to the requests over 30,000. So we tell you that you need to share financial statements, indicate how you will proceed if the project does not get fully funded. So that's something that in the past, it's good to share. We, as I mentioned before, we'll do our best to fund your project at your maximum request. We have to spread money sometimes. It depends. Some panels may decide to fully fund fewer projects. Others will try to fund more projects at a lower base. My job is also to keep that not too low so that projects can actually happen. But it's good for you to imagine, well, if I only get 75% of what I'm asking, what am I going to reduce from this project? What aspect, how that's going to affect the project as a whole? Would that be possible to do the project, and so on? I don't know if there's any question in particular that you felt was very different from last year. If I didn't answer specifically to what you've seen that is new, please let me know. But yeah, we asked to describe the project, the collaborations, the leadership, sharing knowledge, I think is something that is more strongly worded this time. But let me know. I'll move on to the next question. Are we expected to present our project to the public? Well, you're expected to share what knowledge that you found. So if it is a program, an artistic program, yes. If it is an organizational process, then we expect you to share the findings. Whatever you're finding through experimentation, through innovation, through the process that you're proposing to go through, we expect that you share that with the artistic community, if that is the focus, the target group of this process, or with the audience at large, if that's who you want to reach through this program. Does that answer your question? Please let me know if you have further questions from that. The next question. I know you said it does not cover training, but what if training is a small component of our initiative, but not the main activity? Well, in that case, you should mention that it's not the main component, and it would be good to show that you are looking for other funding possibilities to cover the training program. That being said, consultants could be a covered cost, training for professional development, or things that are related to organizational transition, perhaps could be funded. Maybe if you want to get more specific about that, I can maybe answer better, but technically not. And if it's part of the project in any way, and you feel that it needs to be mentioned and it's intrinsical to it, let us know how you plan on funding that otherwise, not through the Open Door program. And what kind of training is that? I'm going to go back to the Q&A, but if other people would like to speak up, please do raise your hand. Okay. We are specifically applying for games as art showcased publicly. Is this something to be discussed prior to our application to help clarify? I know that it can be a barrier of communication around game art to juries, as well as perception issues. Well, I've seen some draft applications, and I am doing my best to compose a panel that has the expertise to assess these applications. And so I will do my best to bring someone from the media arts gaming field, because I saw was one. I'm not sure if it's you, Len, but I saw that we have some applications related to gaming, so it shouldn't be an issue. But perhaps considering the other panelists, try to explain any questions that you may feel could come from someone who's not familiar with the medium. Again, any of these questions that I'm answering, if I'm not answering them at first, come again. It says that publishing projects are ineligible. Would that include a commissioned piece of writing or zine summarizing the activities of our project? That's a good question. We want you to share the information of whatever the project findings will be, or knowledge that comes through this process. So trying to find ways to share it, and sharing it could be part of the program. Now, it depends on how I guess printing costs could be associated, but not, well, sharing the information, the summarizing the activities should be part of your project. It should not be like just, we do not fund book publishing, for example. But I think using the publication as an element to share information is valid. I fully second the zine question. We have considered a final collection of the project for folks to be able to use after the project's finished. Yes, like creating toolkits. I highly recommend you to think not only of print publishing, and not talking about publishing, but okay, a zine format or a catalog, or a way of sharing text that could be digital, that could be printed, that could be disseminated, could be audio, could be video. It's really open, as long as it's not like a novel, a book publication, really. Can you give more examples of music organizations and how they have used this grant in the past? A lot of music organizations have used this grant to create access to audiences, some to create hybrid platforms, some to create accessibilities to venues, some to explore potential presentation modes, some to really work within the organization and help themselves reorganize and restructure after crisis or through crisis. Yes, maybe you can ask me more specific questions, because really we funded like over 100 projects through this program, so I'm not going to be able to remember all of them right now. Yes, I see there are some changes to the application form. I think I've answered this one.
Okay, there's another one that says if our initiative will be developed over a span of 2.5 years, do we have to detail each phase?
Yes, timelines are very important. So yes, tell us how you're going to do the project through 2 years. Technically, you have 2 years to do the project. If you need to go a little bit over this time period, please explain why. And then we might be a little bit flexible. Also in the system, you will only be able to say that it's like 2 years, it will be the maximum. So if you require a little bit of flexibility, explain that in your application, and it shouldn't be that big of a problem if it's justifiable and it's understood by the panelists. Another question, do you support infrastructure in this project, i.e. outdoor lighting or sound? Well, we do not support capital expenses. It could be rental of equipment. It could be gaining access to this equipment, but you could not be purchasing it. So if in some way, like having access to this equipment to do whatever you plan on doing, that would be eligible, but as a cost, but not as a purchase. We've already completed our unaudited financial statements for the year, which were put together by our accountant. What are our options if we have considered a budget above 30,000? Well, you just need detailed financial statements, ins and outs, as detailed as possible. It doesn't need to be audited. If you can have them audited, if it's part of your annual, your closing process, that's great. If not, if you're a collective or an organization that doesn't have that big of a budget, it's okay as long as it's detailed financial, that you demonstrate that you can handle the budget. So someone is saying, apologies if I missed this, as I'm dealing with some distractions where I am. In terms of the jury working with the equity framework, I would like to ask about applications coming from disability backgrounds. We have encountered feedback before where there has not been enough support. We are purposefully applying for knowledge sharing about support in our programming and also lack examples of support from outside parties due to systemic barriers. Is there a specific strategy that is being applied within the equity framework to consider this for applications? If so, could we be taught more about it? I'm thinking about this question. I continue reading it. Yes.
Can I just jump in? Just
yes, because if you have the, please do.
Yeah, part of my role at TAC is
yes.
access. So I do have some, I guess, just some things that you might want to look into or consider. So we do, I know we already shared our accessibility supports when it comes to the fact that you can apply for up to 5,000 when it comes to your projects, artists with disabilities, and your team. We are working on ways to make access planning and knowledge around access planning more accessible, and sharing information about that. So you can look out for that. It is coming. But if you do have specific questions about how to how to approach those questions in your application, I would really consider reaching out to the program managers on a one-on-one basis. So Part of our role is also to support you to navigate some of those questions and how to approach the questions. So it is possible for you to also book a one-on-one session specifically for that question. But in the meantime, I will share some of those workshops and resources that I'm aware of.
Yeah, and also panel-wise, as I mentioned to the person who asked about gaming, I've also been seeing drafts of applications that focus on disability issues. This program is really a great opportunity to address this within your organization, within your programming, to make your programming and organization more accessible. We highly encourage that. And I will be making sure to have someone who is well-versed in the accessibility justice movement and who could advocate for these applications within the panel. Another question, so to expand on the unaudited statements, I'm also happy to make budgets below the 30K cap. The main expense change is artist fees that would want to raise. That's always a good thing to raise artist fees. Again, the idea is to demonstrate that you can handle a budget this large. So share what you have as detailed as you can, and to raise artist fees is important. And then you can also mention, like, if you're a new organization, if you are a collective, if you are just started making financial statements, try to explain that, well, this is our trajectory, but tell us how confident you are and what experience you have in dealing with a larger budget. More questions in the chat, raised hands. Yes, other things have been answered directly by Cole. Again, please give me a call, any one of you who are online right now, if we haven't really addressed the questions here. We still have some time. Still have another half an hour if you want to go about and ask questions. The link that Maj is sharing right now about the accessible futures, it's been a series of seminars that I highly recommend anyone to attend. New question came up. Hello. Can an organization apply for components of a project that were not funded from other grant? Well, you cannot get funding through Open Door if it's something that could be funded through another project grant within the Ontario Arts Council. If it's a component that was specifically innovative, risk-taking, and so on, and was not funded because of that, you could try in this program. But if it's something that could be funded through dance, music, visual arts, media arts, community arts, Black arts, Indigenous arts, no, it cannot be funded here. Hope I answered. Could you tell me how many applicants last year, while there are 28 successful applicants? Well, we had about, I think we had about 70 applicants. I can tell you exactly how many. Yeah, I think it was about 70 to 80 applicants. I can look into that and I'll give you a confirmation in a few minutes. While I look into that, are there any specific recommendations I would make for organizations who are applying for organizational transition and succession planning? Well, things that I would recommend is to really think outside the box. Like, we are here to fund arts. We're here to fund artists. We're here to imagine new things, make the impossible happen. So I recommend looking into non-traditional leaderships or traditional indigenous leaderships or leaderships within racialized communities. I think it would be, how can I say, this program is really an opportunity to do things that haven't been done before. So, of course, sometimes what we need is really a strong business background, but it can also be an opportunity to think of like non-capitalistic ways or non-hierarchical structures, horizontal organizations, other forms of leaderships, challenging the word leadership. I really, really encourage you to be wild, and you can justify that, right? Why is that important? I think we are in a historic moment that it is crucial to think other ways. And if we're challenging power structures and historic systematic barriers, it's really important for us not to replicate them, right? So to think of very different ways of doing things. And I think that's why the art sector is here for, not to solve problems, it's not our responsibility, but to try things out. So I encourage you to be free and think about different things, and don't be stuck to, try not to be stuck to language. Is something that we look into within our grants. We're trying to make our best to be accessible, but also to encourage new ways. So David's coming back with more information while I still haven't looked at the number of applications. So I also see that it was about 1.2 million for the 28 successful applications obtained last year. So I remember you mentioned it will be smaller than last year for this year's OD grant. How much in total will be distributed to successful applicants? So yes, our budget will be much smaller this year. I can guarantee you that. I can't really tell what's the grant, the budget at this point, but I can tell you that the top, the maximum that we have funded was 100,000, and the average grant is about 50,000. So that's something to keep in mind. I assume we'll have less applications this year, and expecting about 60 applications. Last year we had about, I think, 80 max. I might be, but as I said, the budget will be much smaller than last year. Sorry for taking long. Thank you. 123 applications, Cole found out. So yes, we are expecting half of the applications because our budget will be proportionately small, if that gives you a hint. But do call me tomorrow, David, if you have more questions. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here. Thank you all very much for attending the session. I look forward to receiving your calls in the next weeks and seeing your applications. And good luck, you all. Thanks.